Welcome to the far corner of the Omniverse. Hope you enjoy your stay. Nobody wants to live at the chrysalis home for promising youth, but for many a young adult in Moon Beach, it's either that or the streets of the most dangerous city in the world. From the omnipotent crime preyed to by the righteous, wicked, and in between, to the elusive all-knowing mysteries, and the omnipresent horrors overt and covert. The 7 floods were the least of their anxieties. Want to know more about the 7 floods? Check out Raybat number 1, only on Far Fiction. The few drops that were unfortunate enough to find themselves there were just as damned as the rest. But with the efforts of 2 detectives, there would be rest for the damned. Far Fiction presents the Pyjamatectives. Josephine Jacobs had applied to 5,000 jobs. A fifth of them rejected her for being over or underqualified. A fifth told her to call back about 5 or 6 times to set up an interview. A fifth she was patiently waiting to hear back from post-interview. A fifth were taken aback by her, in their words, uniqueness, ambition, and work ethic uncommon of someone so young these days, and that they need someone on the team exactly like her, followed by a rejection email. And then there was the fifth that had no working phone, manager chronically unavailable, but all the employees swear by applying online. So she sets up an interview, dated and timed, only for the manager to either not be there, unaware they even have an interview, and is actually not hiring. So when Mr. Young, a chrysalis staff member, called her lazy, could you blame her for punching him? The next day, she wouldn't be allowed back in the shelter until after dinner. As she began her wait on the stairs outside, she was greeted by a big box of nachos, or rather, the person attached. As hungry as she was, they might as well be one and the same. She had seen him around the shelter, PJ Daniels. He was slim, his large afro looked like it weighed more than him, and he always looked like he had his eyes closed. But now that she was a lot closer, she could see that they were barely open, just ever so slightly. He was mostly quiet and stayed out of most drama, which got him hate from other clients. He also had a reputation for being an underachiever, which got him heat from staff. But Josephine had yet to find a reason to outright distrust him. "Yo, want some?" he said. But Josephine Jacobs is as vigilant as the day is long. "Is this a gift or an investment?" she asked, eyebrow raised. PJ looked a little bit taken aback, then laughed a little. "Good question. Yeah, no, that's real." He took a few moments to marinate in that question. "I guess it's more of a gift? I don't know, that feels a little too professional?" He yawned. "I guess. It's nachos. Don't worry, I don't expect you to owe me one." Josephine relaxed slightly. "Very well, what's the limit?" PJ shrugged. "By all means, take half. It's messed up how they did you yesterday." Josephine almost choked in agreement. "Thank you. Literally, what am I doing wrong?" After about a minute of silence, PJ asked, "Want the truth or want me to lie to you?" Josephine's guard went back up, mouth full, ready for round 2. "Hey, what are you implying?" PJ put his hands up. "Whoa, hey, no shade, hear me out. I think you'll dig it." She swallowed, then crossed her arms. "Truth. You're wasting your energy. These companies don't give a crap about us. I see you out here, mad respect. In the mornings with your interview gear, heart aflutter, but then in the evenings," he shook his head. "That same empty-handed face." She sighed. "Then where do you suggest I use my energy?" PJ chewed and swallowed the food, wiped his face with his sleeve, then he pointed to her. "I'm not doing sex work." PJ fell down a few steps laughing at her. "Not what I meant, okay?" He gave her a reassuring smile. Then she mirrored his face and nodded out of sincere alignment. Suddenly the door behind them opened. It was Nephthys Noches, the chrysalis sweetheart. The shelter had a thrift store like many shelters did, and she was lucky enough to land a job there. She was a quiet, diligent young lady who was generous whenever another decent soul was in need. "I was told to tell you, too, that you can come in early. I put some food aside in the kitchen. You have the cafeteria until chores. Just please clean after yourself." Josephine walked in and got ready for dinner, but PJ took a small nap. 10 minutes later, PJ and Josephine walked in the cafeteria, the latter wearing her one-eared purple bunny pajamas, and PJ traded in his outfit he put on to pretend he was going to interviews for his defaults. A graphic or solid purple t-shirt, dark green pajama pants, slippers, and a lighter green robe. When Josephine sat down, she continued an episode of That's So Rode on her phone that she started yesterday. It was a mystery comedy show about a brilliant fashionista detective who pretends to be a seer in order to avoid being convicted of a crime she accidentally stumbled into. It was her favorite show, close seconds being OC Detective and Straight Face, which was ironically the gayest of the three. PJ lit up. Hey, that's So Rode? Sick. Josephine matched his energy. Grab a seat. You know they made a new Yang Yin special? Josephine could have sworn she almost saw his eyes open. No way. Let me go grab this plate. As PJ entered the kitchen, he saw someone that made him more tired than usual. Pecan, the shelter's resident wannabe thug. Hey, bro, where you going? PJ ignored him and grabbed his plate. What, you too good to talk? Stop acting like a bitch. You ain't a female. He swung at PJ, and he evaded, making him punch some pans. Why you being scary? He kicked, and PJ opened the refrigerator door, getting a soda that staff had saved for him ages ago, and canceling his kick. Pecan winced, but shook it off quick, because in his head, Herden ain't hard. He charged at PJ, going for a tackle, and PJ begrudgingly jumped over him, lamenting some food he dropped. Pecan landed face first into a mop bucket. Josephine had heard the noise and came to assist, but saw that PJ had it covered and was intrigued. Your fighting style, is it all defensive? PJ replied with food in his mouth. Let's just say I don't interrupt an opponent when they're making a mistake. They finished their meals an episode, but Josephine wanted to get a head start on chores, since there was a little time to spare on her schedule. Before PJ left out of the door, she had one more thing. Hey, PJ? He turned to see her pointing at him with the same reassuring smile they shared before. That was the moment they truly became friends. Their personalities were night and day. Josephine had every millisecond of every day scheduled. PJ napped through most of it. From first grade to college, she never got anything below a 95, earning her 5 master's degrees spanning every corner of academia. He graduated high school putting C for every answer. Beanie's favorite music was rock, punk, and anime openings. Energetic stuff. Peach was more into chill jazz, hip-hop, and R&B. Josephine did the maximum, PJ did the minimum, but their souls were identical twins. They were both brilliant, with a passion for mystery, true crime, conspiracies, paradigm-shifting science, the supernatural, spirituality, lost media, but above all else, they had a strong sense of justice. There was a point where they both became obsessed with the potential of lucid dreams. In theory, if they played their cards right, dreams could become an infinite natural resource that anyone can access using their minds. This could eliminate just about every problem in the world. They studied everything about lucid dreams they can get their hands on. PJ had this method of reading every 10th page that he swore by, which annoyed Feeney initially, but sometimes he was a few steps ahead of her. But there comes a time where theory must become practice. The duo came up with a plan called Project Triple Z. It would take 2 weeks to work out all the calculations, logistics, iron out all the kinks, and they had a couple of months to spare, but one evening, the news reminded them how little time that might be. They decided it was now or never. They borrowed equipment from a local high school's chemistry lab and clinic that was out for vacation. Nephthys pulled some strings and got the duo access to the shelter's old music studio. They set up candles, incense, drew runes and symbols from across different cultures, spiritualities, and practices. Every ritual was a seatbelt for the mind, body, and soul. They also had what they called an alarm word to wake them up, Oasis. They injected themselves with experimental formulas, did their rituals, and drifted off to sleep. The plan was to bring back a jug of water, the most fundamental of resources. As their eyes opened, the miles of grass, blue skies, and gentle river they projected were there to meet them, with large trees that gifted shade spread throughout. PJ pulled out his straw and took a sip. Say, we really put our foot in this water, Feeney. Josephine took out hers and took a taste. Indeed, my friends. Hopefully we can take some to go. Soon the jug was filled, and they took a deep breath as they both held the jug and said in unison, Oasis. Nothing happened. Let's try again, Peach. Yeah. Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oasis, they said. They barely noticed the sky begin to grow overcast. They were looking their goal straight in the eye. Oasis! 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 The sky grew darker and the wind began to howl, but after 4 more attempts, they noticed a cold, damp feeling beneath them. The grass looked exactly the same, but it all felt liquid. Then suddenly, right in between them from the dark skies, descended a blue bolt of lightning that caught their attention and ran it over. They began to take in their surroundings. The liquid grass was rapidly growing. The river had turned into stone, and more lightning emerged, seeming to attack the trees as they began to catch fire. The duo shared a look, and Josephine dropped the container, and they began to say, "Oh," but the dream interrupted them. 7 bolts of lightning struck the grass, and they felt a freezing shock. Please note that the following experiences are an approximate account based on an incomplete level of comprehension. The duo had every experience they ever had play hide and seek with the dream and tag with themselves. For less than a nanosecond and more than an eternity, they felt feelings outside of sound, touch, odor, taste, or sight. It was simultaneously pure theory, as if practice never existed, and sheer practice, as if theory was a theory itself. You're listening to Far Fiction. Hey lovely listeners, Farley here, enjoying your stay, picking up with the Farverse has been down. If you want to support the channel, visit the Far Fiction Patreon, or you can buy us a coffee. Links in the description below. The future of the Farverse depends on it. No shade, no pressure. Thanks for listening. Now, back to the show. They woke up in the music room dangerously past bedtime with sweating that could end a drought. What the hell was that? PJ was just about out of breath. Josephine huffed and puffed too. At a loss for words, she checked their vitals. Their heartbeats were a little rapid, but everything else was normal. But something was off, different. She just couldn't figure out what. "I feel too tired to be awake or asleep," PJ said. "Can't tell if that's a blessing or a curse." He reached for his bag to get some snacks, but unexpectedly, the bag became covered in white energy, and he was able to pull it towards him. Feeny, did you see that, or am I tripping?" Suddenly, some of the borrowed equipment shot to all corners of the room, appearing to be carried by a black energy. PJ ducked as the equipment broke and shattered all around them. "Sorry, Peach." Josephine turned around to reveal her hands covered with the black energy. "I think that was me." Suddenly they heard a scream. It sounded like, "Nephthys!" The duo rushed out the door, and to their horror, Nephthys was on the floor in her nightgown, with a waning crescent moon-shaped hole in her torso, surrounded by a pool of blood on the floor. Looming over her was a figure of almost 7 feet, who appeared human. They wore a black long coat and a white hoodie underneath that was on backwards. On the hood was printed a black waning gibbous as a left eye and a black sun on the right, with a moon-shaped smile below to punctuate the face. Behind the hood was a bold storm of long, messy hair. They also had dark camouflage pants and combat boots, each on the wrong foot. The same could not be said for the blood-covered gloves holding a tool the two couldn't make out. The duo froze, overwhelmed by the flurry of events, until the figure started towards them. The duo ran as fast as they could, darting out of the double doors, pumping their arms. "Let's stay together, strength in numbers," huffed Josephine. "No arguments here," said PJ. Then suddenly they bumped into someone, the monster they were just running from, and fell to the ground on their backsides. "Don't bother," they said. "I walk faster than you run." After an uncomfortable silence, Josephine spoke up. "So, what do you want? Are you a sadist, or what are you trying to communicate here?" They crouched down, still towering over the pair. "I am the Walker. Don't get in my way, Merriman." The next time they blinked, they were gone. If it wasn't for Nephthys' death, PJ and Josephine would be on the streets. It overshadowed every other drama in the shelter. People like Pecan, who misgendered her every time they spoke of her, were now doing just that, while using her for social media points. Rest assured, eventually Chrysalis returned to its familiar climate. But PJ and Josephine had a whole new normal to navigate. But without Nephthys throwing them a bone every once in a while, and Mr. Young out of the hospital, plus the murder itself, rules became a lot stricter. PJ was sleeping twice, at times even thrice as usual to cope. Josephine had developed severe insomnia and hadn't fallen asleep on purpose in weeks. The only respite was their friendship. The duo's time at the Chrysalis was nearing its twilight. Still unemployed, they had been referred by a housing program that would help them with rent for a year. Staff had arranged this because outside of notable outliers, the duo stayed out of trouble for the most part. To their surprise, their new home was the historic Dozing House. Legend has it that it was an inn that Delilah Dozing, its caretaker, would grant shelter, rest, and relaxation to all in need. Any race, any gender, any sexuality, and not just humans. Other animals, places, things, ideas, even grand concepts like time and space. But at some point, every demographic she helped took advantage of her kindness. She grew more and more distrustful of others, eventually banning everyone. The world became a crueler, harsher place after she closed Dozing's doors. They say she lost her mind over the decades, eventually died a recluse. In the 90s, it was open for tours, but there was a series of creepy events and injuries that made the city close it down. Skeptics say the incidents were faked as publicity stunts, with genuinely compelling arguments. Others swear they've seen Delilah glaring from the second-story window at anyone who got too close. PJ shook his head. Figures. We get the haunted house. Maybe I'll learn something cool before Delilah puts a curse on me, lamented Josephine. 1 week later, they caught a rideshare to a slim, purple 3-story house. Visible on the front, it had 5 windows. 2 of the windows were stained glass yellow stars, one on the first floor and one on the second, each diagonal to each other. The other diagonal neighbors were windows in the shape of a red sun and a blue crescent moon inside of a translucent circle. The topmost window was smaller, like a cherry on top, and it looked like a drowsy eye halfway closed. One would think these windows would be triggering to the duo, especially with the shadow of the legend looming over the building. But surprisingly, both PJ and Josephine felt an awesome wave of peace looking at their new home. The outside was deceptively small. The 3 stories were much more apparent on the inside, with 111 rooms, including a library, a ballroom, a pool room, and a gaming room. They all had a number and nameplate labeled to them. But what grabbed Josephine's attention in particular were the rooms with names like the Upside Down Room, the Bloom Room, or the Roomless Room. Unfortunately, their guides were only focused on the most excruciatingly mundane details of the house. Even Josephine was getting bored. After a 20-minute one-sided conversation about drawers, PJ said he had to use the bathroom and took a nap in there. The key takeaway was that they had a year to figure out income. But with the job market being the cardboard cutout that it was, it felt more like they had been dropped in quicksand. PJ was content to see where the universe led him, which got him little gigs here and there, and Josephine made content about unsolved mysteries and lost media that got her some extra cash. But at this rate, they still wouldn't have enough by the end of the year. Beanie put exploring the house on the back burner after discovering most of the rooms were locked. Not even ramming them with the heaviest things she could find worked. But she had a feeling that one day she could open those doors. 6 months passed, and one day they were watching a local sitcom station when they got breaking news about Nephthys. The duo jumped out of their seats. The news anchor said, "After half a year, the Moon murderer is still at large, and with no new information from officials, the case has officially gone cold." In other news, "Bullshit," said Feeney in disbelief. "Bullshit, bullshit!" She threw the remote like a comet, and PJ intercepted before it destroyed their TV. Josephine sat on the couch and broke into tears. After a few hours of wordless consolation between them, Josephine had an epiphany. "We need to be detectives." PJ nearly opened his eyes at her statement, and then put his feet up and his arms behind his head, marinating in her words. "I don't know, Feeney. This is no epilogue city. Plus, you saw what the Walker can do. You really think we're cut out for this?" Beanie took his hand. "We're both brilliant in ways that make up for each other's blind spots. We can handle ourselves in the fight, and I've gotten back into studying what happened to us. Walker called us mermen that night, and from the little information I found, that accident made us into the 2 kinds. You're half human, half dream. I'm half human, half nightmare. Together I'm still figuring out a name, actually. Dreamtectives and Dream Detectives was already taken. The point is, I know we can stop the Walker Beach. PJ yawned. Oh, shit. I heck, forgot about my powers. Thanks for the memo. The remote is basically omnipresent now. Beanie laughs gently, shaking her head. And we can finally make some more money. There's no shortage of mysteries to solve in Moon Beach. She exhales. Come on, Peach, what do we have to lose? Needing time to marinate in her idea, 10 minutes later, PJ replied, well, I am sick of boiling all the sodium off of canned goods. Let's do it. Josephine got startled. Whoa, I thought you fell asleep again. As for the name, how about the Pyjamatectives? We both love vibing in our jammies. And what better way to stick it to the system than going to work in our pajamas? Josephine tried the name a few times. Huh, it does oddly roll off the tongue. That was the day the Pyjamatectives awakened. Meanwhile, somewhere in a secret basement, the Pyjamatectives' actions could be seen on 5 monitors via hidden cameras. This is where the Walker would continue their work. I warned you. Hope you enjoyed your stay. Subscribe, like, and share to keep the portal to the Farverse open, and thanks for watching. Take care, lovely listeners. Later.